Hi guys, thank you for joining me today. I'm Zane with Train with Zane Personal Training, and this is a channel where you come for your faith, fitness, and fun. So today I'm going to share something with you that's actually pretty personal, and it's a pretty important subject, and that subject is God's love. Have you ever questioned God's love for you and wondered, if He loves me, then how come I can't feel it? Why can't I experience His love? Why don't I fully receive and understand His love? Maybe you're not somebody who's ever gone through that or experienced that, but I personally have many times. And I think it's a very common thing for people to think and to feel. What we're going to do is talk about my experience with God's love and how I have managed to work through the not only emotions and feelings, but the logic behind knowing His love exists because His word says so, but not understanding how to receive it. If you like this video, please like it, comment below, and let me know your struggles or what you go through, and then share it with your friends, and of course, subscribe to my channel because that will allow you to get every new video that I put up every week. So I've been a Christian for pretty much all my life, but I didn't really take my walk seriously until I'd say about 16 years ago. And it's been a beautiful journey, but also an extremely grueling journey. My life has been full of a lot of traumatic events, and that has caused me to really doubt and question God's love for me. Like, I can feel sometimes God's love for me, like if He blesses me, or I know that a prayer gets answered, I know that that's God's love. It's easy to feel His love when He's blessing us or He's answering a prayer, isn't it? But what about the times where you don't get your prayers answered and you endure hardship? And you endure heartache, and you endure pain, and you endure maybe even abuse. Those are the times where we really question God, the existence of God, and even His love for us. So here's what God has shown me over these very long 16 grueling years. I want you to understand that if you try to see it from God's perspective, things look very different. You see, God's perspective is not our perspective. Our perspective, well, it kind of sucks most of the time. Sometimes if we're in wisdom and we're hanging out with God and we're abiding in Him, we can have a good perspective, but so often we're messed up in our soul and in our emotions and feelings, and so our perspective gets skewed. And believe me, logic can tell you that a situation is bad or a situation is not good, and you're probably right, but it doesn't mean that that's God's wholehearted perspective about the situation. And I've learned this so many times the hard way. Ultimately, I felt led to make this video, and I was like, God, I'm the last person to make a video about your love. I don't even fully receive your love, and sometimes I don't even believe that you love me, because you and I, we go back and forth. Like well, really it's just me, let's be honest. It's me fighting with Him. But at the end of the day, I was like, I'm not qualified. I'm not qualified to tell people about your love. So I wrestled with it for a little while. And then I realized over the next few days that He was really giving me revelation in my own personal life about where His love was and what it really looked like. So we all know that love can be squishy and wonderful, and if somebody brings you flowers, or somebody gives you a gift, or somebody says, oh, I just love you so much, or that's like romantic love. And sometimes God gives us that sweet, precious romantic love, but it's really not all the time that we receive that kind of love. If you think about what God did on the cross through Jesus, Jesus literally took all of our sins, all of our sicknesses, all of our ailments, all of our sadness, all of our pain. He took it all on the cross in that beating. He took all of it, and it makes me emotional, but He took all of it on the cross with Him. That in and of itself was a judgment on Jesus. He judged Jesus. Why? Jesus didn't do anything wrong. He didn't sin, but He had to judge Jesus because He judged us through Jesus. So He was judging us through Jesus. And you're like, well, how is that love? Like, I don't even feel like He basically killed His son. No, He didn't kill His son. He allowed His son to be killed. And that is ultimately the biggest love that you could ever receive from anyone, knowing that Jesus loved you enough to take all of our pain and all of our sickness and all of our disease and all of our sin on his body, on him. That's love. It's easy to see Jesus' love, but then you think, well, God, he totally abandoned Jesus. And also that he could take the sin away, but there's still sin everywhere. Yes, there is. You're like, well, how can it be love? Well, here's how. When God judged us through Jesus' death, that was a final thing. So any lie that we believe, anything that we go through in life is really not the way it's supposed to be, because Jesus died on the cross. The problem is sin still exists. Sin is still out there. And because of that free will, we are allowed to sin. And ultimately, we have to make the choices to choose life or death, to choose holiness or unholiness. And all too often, we choose unholiness. I speak from myself and from personal experience. And so I kept struggling and wrestling with this idea of judgment, because God's really been working with me on judgment. He did many years ago, but then he's really been dealing with me again on judgment. And I'm like, dude, Lord, do you not see what's going on here? Like, I know I shouldn't be judging, but at the end of the day, do you not see what this is doing to me, or what that is doing, or what, right? And what I get from him is, yes, I see it. But at the end of the day, it's not your right to judge. And the judgment has made you sin. So ultimately, if Jesus died on the cross for my sin, what's going on here? And that's what God's really been showing me, is Jesus already died on the cross for my sin. He already took all that judgment. So somewhere there's a lie here, because even though the things are happening for real in this world and in this life, those are real and they're really happening. The truth is, if I believe in God and the truth of his son dying on the cross for me, because both God and Jesus loved me, then I know that no matter what goes on, even if I were to die, that would still be okay, because I would be with him and in him. That no matter how someone treats you, that no matter what you go through in your day, no matter what falls apart, no matter what you don't have, at the end of the day, you still have the richest thing in the world, which is God's love. And even if you can't feel it, it doesn't mean it's not there. It usually means that your own soul is not receiving it. Your spirit receives it, but your soul is getting in the way, because our soul dabbles in the world and the spirit. And so our soul, it likes to go back and forth. Our spirit wants to stay rock solid. So we have to understand that God's judgment is good. He wants us to believe in him and believe that his judgment was for a purpose. I would read the word and I'd be like, you judge and you judge and you judge, and it's so hard to believe that that's love. And he showed me, he showed me through Watchman Nee, which is one of my favorite authors. I love this man. But basically he showed me that if I didn't judge you, right? If you do something wrong and I didn't judge you, then I wouldn't love you. No different than a parent who, if they don't take care of their child and they let their child just run around wildly and do whatever and they don't care, that's not loving that child. It's the same with us. We're grown adults, but his love is judgment. And it was like mind-blowing when I started to receive that and understand, and I'm still in the process of getting it. You're like, what? God's love is judgment? Yeah, kind of. God's love is a whole lot of things. God's love is babies. God's love is mountains. God's love is beautiful scenery. God's love is, oceans and love and joy and laughter. And those are all God's love. But you know what else is God's love? God's judgment. Not human judgment. Not human judgment. God's judgment is love. Because if we didn't have God's judgment, we would not be free. If God didn't judge us, not only just through Jesus, but if he didn't judge everything that we do, there would be no redemption. There would be no going to heaven. There would be nowhere to go because we would be stuck in hell. So ultimately, we have to understand that God's judgment is actually love. And I know it's hard to receive, and I know it's hard to understand. And I just ask you to pray about it and get into the Word. Don't take my word for it. Get into the Word. Like, read the Bible. I just want you to know that judgment is love when it comes from God. It doesn't feel loving. It doesn't feel good, but it doesn't make it not love. What He wants to do is judge you and not condemn you, but literally convict you to stop doing what you're doing or to not do it again, so that you'll change, which is what? Repentance, so that you get on the right track with Him and you're abiding in Him at all times. That is the best kind of love that we could ever, ever, ever receive. So think about it, pray about it. You know, God's love is all wonderful, beautiful things. Yes, but God's love is also when He judges us. And I'll tell you, the older you get in your walk, the more you're going to realize that you can't get away with much. The more that you learn, the more knowledge you have, the more that is expected of you. And as much as that sounds like it sucks, and it does at times, at the end of the day, I'm honored, and it's good because we need to be held accountable. And if you want to grow to the next level, you have to learn the lesson. Follow the rules. Why? Because I love you. Why? Because I expect you to follow me and obey. Why does He want us to obey Him? Is it because He's some controlling freak? No, it's because He's God and He knows what's best for us. If you need help in any way, I just encourage you to read the Word. I encourage you to pray. I encourage you to take what I've said to God in prayer. I encourage you to check it to the Word, because I'm not God. And this is just a revelation that He's been giving me. And on others, obviously, but because I'm reading it. But it's just such a special thing when you start to like realize, I've been so angry with God for like, you judge and you expect too much. You're too much. But then I realize, yeah, He's really not expecting too much. Ultimately, you know, we can't just go around breaking rules of the land, like go rob people, or you can't lie all the time. Ultimately, we have to be open to His truth and receiving His truth. And when we receive His truth, we receive His love. And then you feel His love because you know you're seeing His truth. And even if you don't agree with it, you still feel His love because you know that it's the truth. So when you feel like something's off, and you feel like something's not making sense, definitely check it with God. Like, take it to Him. Talk to Him about it. Even if you're angry and you don't feel like talking to Him, you got to push through. You got to push through and do it anyway. Trust me. How do I know? Because I have to do it a lot, all the time. Okay? And when you push through and you take it to Him, I promise you, you will find some peace. But you have to push through. You have to press on. Okay? You can't just say, here you go, God, and then still be angry. Like, that's not productive. You have to really talk to Him about it and really check your heart, check your motives, check the truth. I hope this helps you understand, you know, when you read the Bible and you see these judgments and maybe you see condemnation in the Bible and you think that's just condemnation. Well, God can condemn. He condemns things that He doesn't want to live anymore. Like, you know, if there's a branch in us, He talks about that in the Bible. If there's a branch in us that is not producing fruit, like lying, or maybe someone's having an affair, or, you know, you're stealing, or, you know, maybe you're doing drugs and He doesn't want you to do that. Or, I mean, it's endless opportunities here of sin. He has to prune those branches. So what is He going to do? Is He going to say, oh, honey, don't do that? No, sometimes He will, if you're willing to just stop in that way. But other times He allows us to experience pain, and He allows us to experience His judgment so that we can become convicted. And I think out of everything, that's the greatest love of all that He gives us. And I can't believe I'm saying that, but it's the truth. If He didn't love us, I know He doesn't enjoy watching us suffer and be in pain. Of course he doesn't. He hates it, I'm sure. I'm not God. I'm sure he's not up there saying, oh, that's great, get some popcorn. Like, that's no. I know he does not enjoy it. His judgment is not because he hates us. It's because he loves you and he wants you to be free. And that in and of itself is freeing when you understand and realize that he just wants you to be free. I thank you guys so much for watching this video. I pray that it maybe enlightens you and helps you to understand maybe a little bit more about you, maybe a little bit more about God himself. And comment below and let me know. If you disagree, that's okay. But if it's blessed you in some way, definitely let me know. And please share it with your friends. And of course, subscribe to the channel. I will be posting new things every single week. You can go look at my other videos. I do have some workouts over there, and I have some videos on health that you can look at. I just pray that you take this with love and know that it's only in his love that we get judged. I also want to add that I do personal training online and health coaching online. So if that's something that you're looking for, you can absolutely go down to the links below. I also have my recipe book down in the link below. So just go on down and look at the description below and you'll see the links to all of those things. Take a look at my website and let me know if you have any questions. Take care. Bye-bye.